This is Audiogyan, and I am your host, Kedar Nimkar. Welcome to a deep dive into the minds of luminaries from the Indian creative world.
Today we have Vinu Daniel with us on Audiogyan. He's an architect and did his Bachelor's of Architecture in 2005 from the College of Engineering, Trivandrum. After that, he worked with Auroville Earth Institute for UNDP, Post-Tsunami construction. On returning from Pondicherry in 2007, he started Wallmakers, an architectural practice that deals with sustainable and cost-effective architecture. Mud bricks, recycled materials, eco-friendly methods of constructions, and apt utilization of natural resources shaped Vinu's design philosophy. We'll try and document some of his thoughts on mud as a material and what it is to when we say it's truly sustainable. I'll also give a small disclaimer before we start that Vinu has been kind enough to give this sort of a Audiogyan session from his car. Thanks, Vinu, and welcome to Audiogyan. Thanks for giving your time, and it's a real pleasure to have you on the show.
The pleasure is all mine, and thank you for welcoming me to Audiogyan. I hope I will be able to answer, and I hope this particular condition is good enough for your Audiogyan.
Yes. I think, Audiogyan has seen different sorts of environment and so it's all cool. I wanted to, and plus, because we are going to talk about sustainability and mud predominantly, I wanted to pick your brains on what, like, you have been playing with mud for quite some time and other eco sort of friendly stuff. But to begin with, I wanted to start off with like a slightly counterintuitive question. I remember interviewing BV Doshi in my 100th episode, and I just asked him that what's wrong with RCC, or why has RCC changed the landscape of cities? To which he almost spontaneously said, "Oh, why do you blame RCC? Why do you blame cement? It's just another material. It depends on how you use it." And that gave a different perspective. But with your work, I wanted to just start off by asking that, have you toyed with it? Is the natural inclination always towards mud, or you have seen some whatever side effects of cement? Anything that you think which is wrong with cement before we jump into mud?
No. As BV Doshi sir very well put, RCC is not the enemy here. No construction is possible without RCC or steel. So, literally disclaiming it or making false accusations on RCC or steel doesn't help us get anywhere. Sustainable practice is not about that. I think there is a sentence which I recently read from one of my teachers. He quoted from this Agastya Puranam, which is a Ayurveda-based text, in which it is actually written that a person born from a particular area will only, whatever diseases that he is bound to get, his cure comes from that particular area. All his ailments, all his problems can be cured with the plants and stuff that comes from that particular area. For me, this particular sentence was very profound. This analogy can be used even in architecture. And it is exactly what Gandhiji said to Lori Baker long back, that if you can build something with a 10-mile radius material, then you are doing something sustainable. So RCC is not the villain here. What we are really trying to do is we are really trying to get the material that is available around us. So the same sentence can be used in a different way for architecture. The humans residing in a particular area, if you build with the materials that is available in this particular area, your house will be much more easier to live in. It will be something which is healthier for you. Let's put it that way. So it's not a question about blaming any particular material as such. It's just a question about what are your resources? What are the resources that you can find nearby? So, I hope that actually explains a bit. It is not a sentence you can explain in 5 minutes or 15 minutes. It's something you can spend your lifetime thinking about. So I
Yeah.
hope that gives a pretty much an idea of what we are trying to do.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So what's beautiful about mud? Is it just locally available, or there is something much more deeper and profound about this material?
The big the problem for me personally was that I was born in Dubai and I was raised as a particular city child. For me, the first time I saw mud, it was a big exotic material for me. I didn't perceive it as a poor man's material or anything like that, because I was so away from any such construction almost till 20 years of my life, of my first part of my life. And when I first encountered it, all my perceptions, like, okay, dirty, maintenance, like cow dung, whatever you want to call it, whatever your mind perceives, especially coming from a Dubai, Abu Dhabi, like Amul baby, NRI Amul baby, coming all the way back to India. All of it vanished when I saw mud in face to face. It all changed when I saw a Gunga. Actually, I didn't see much mud construction in Kerala. I happened to immediately get into architecture, study with it, and only during a case study where I wanted to travel a lot throughout India. Only during a case study, I went almost to the edge of India-Pakistan border, and I found out this wonderful mud hut in the blistering heat of Rajasthan, Gujarat and Rajasthan. I found in the middle of Ran of Kutch, there was this Bunga. Bunga is this mud hut. That is my first experience with mud. And in some sense, it was the most exotic material for me. So when others say mud is a poor man's material, bad, this and everything, I was born into RCC concrete jungle. I was born into air conditioning. I was born into triple lace curtains. I was born into carpets, Persian carpet. I was born into all those things that any child today is born to. For me, looking at that particular material, it was beautiful. It absorbed the heat of the ground so wonderfully. It was the most wonderful climate that I could endure. None of the artificial air conditioning, none of those things. It just fits. It just is the right material. So for me, even today, it's been 20 years, 16 years since I have started my practice. Even today, mud is such a beautiful, exotic material. We are trying a new particular type of technology with mud. And it amazes me even now. I don't think even a well-versed practitioner today is amazed by that particular material after working 16 or 20 years with it. But for me, even today, I venture into any sort of mud creation the way a kid goes into candy store. For me, it's such an exotic material.
Yeah. And can you little bit talk about like what exactly this material is? Because as a layman, for me, the mud is whatever I see on the ground. But when I did an episode with Sumana Chandrasekhar and couple of others talking about clay, talking about the ghattam and like the things which are made from essentially mud or clay, I found out that there are variations in it, right? There's different silicon content, there are different sort of minerals in it. So in your context, what is the dominant sort of uh, substance that you're working with while you're building your buildings and houses and places?
This is the best part of mud. Any mud is usable. That is the best part. Whatever you see as the dirt or that, mix it with a bit of water, add a bit of substitutes and everything. You get your building material. That is the best part of mud. You don't have to go for the exclusive material, none of those things, because mud has a history in our building. The whatever you have explained earlier, I believe, is this particular rich traditional craft or something. But mud has been poor man's material. How much education did poor man have? Didn't they build wonderfully for the last 3,000 years of civilization? Yes, we did. So mud is just mud. We don't have to even think of it as some like only some skilled god can do something about mud. We don't know anything about mud. No, it's the same mud dirt you see. It is the best building material. You can shape it, no? How children shape it, the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just that once you start with it, you slowly understand that okay, this can be done, that can be done. However, it's just like once you learn to cook, no, you suddenly understand the nuances of cooking, isn't it? Initially, all you know is to make bread omelette. So for anybody who wants to start, bread omelette is the best place to start. You start with the mud you see. That's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. But can we build? I mean, again,
Yes,
if we
yes.
ask that question,
That is
no,
we have made this construction
Hmm.
so crazy, so I don't know, so some other level that we forgot it is the simplest thing what man could do. You don't have to be any sort of expert to make something with mud and stay under it. We have made this world so complicated. We have made this construction field so complicated. There is architect for interiors, there is architect for exteriors, there is architect for that, there is architect for facade, structural engineering. All those things, we have made it so complicated that we forgot that this was the first thing we learned to do. And probably our experimentation was least in construction. Probably cooking we did more. I'm sorry to say this, for me, cooking is much more complicated than construction in some sense. Like music, like singing songs is much more complicated. This was the first thing as humans we learned to do. We learned to protect our family, ourselves by creating some boundaries with mud. This is what we first learned. It's there in our genes. We don't have to think that, okay, there is a particular complication, there's that, this, and everything. We will eventually learn it. It's like, allow me to decomplicate it, unravel it. It's the simplest thing that we can do. It is the simplest thing. We have just complicated everything.
I think that's also important because we have roti kapda and makan. Makan is finally the
exactly
fence. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Makan is the fence, like in Kerala and all, people used to the fence. People used to just dump mud balls onto the fence and you call it your house. You just then put some rafters on top and put some grass on top, and yeah, you got your house. I'm doing a suspension bridge right now with grass. I am actually trying to now learn after 16 years or 17 years of learning with mud. I'm doing something in Karjat where we found out that it is in the forest, it is very difficult to procure mud. It's more of rocks and stuff. But there is another material. It is grass. We have forgotten how to build with grass. So we are learning how to build with grass with some local people, and it's fantastic. It's a grueling process. It's tough. Like we had to unlearn all the complications that I learned up as an architect. I had to go back to my basics. And me and my junior architects are cutting grass. We are doing all sorts of things. And once we started doing it, we understood all the complications. So when you go, let's say you suddenly walk out and say, I want a thatched roof. The kind of things people say, oh, there should be skilled guy, this kind of grass should be there, that kind of grass shouldn't be there. All sorts of things actually have complicated that entire process. It's such a simple, beautiful process which yields a great product. Mud, grass, all those natural materials are the perfect solution. We just overcomplicated things. I'm not saying to look away from concrete. Modern man can use all these things together to create a wonderful habitat. That is what we in Wallmakers are trying to do.
But like, what's the extent to which it can be exploited? I'm sure you can't build skyscrapers. I mean, the counter question is also that why build it also? but say suppose it's a urban
you
requirement.
Can build. I am building in Ahmedabad a 9-storied mud building with concrete columns and beams. We never said to stop your concrete columns and beams. Nobody is asking that. We are not saying to stop glasses. We are just saying to use these minimally. I mean, like right now we are speaking through an iPhone. It's the recently I saw an artist hold so many things like transistor radio, TV, everything on his head. It's such a huge bundle. And on the other hand, he was holding a mobile phone. Today, everything has condensed into a mobile phone, isn't it? Without mobile phone, how would we talk? I would have had to take a booking ticket, come over there and conduct this interview. We would have to sit face to face to do this interview. But today, all these advancement in technologies have made it easy. So why are we complicating things? Why are we saying no to one material? As BV Doshi said, we don't have to say no to one material. We can say yes to concrete. We can say yes to mud. We can say yes to all these wonderful materials which is growing. Grass is weed, little brother. And the worst part is people are just cutting it off. People are putting money to dispense it while it can be the most wonderful housing material, roofing material. So we are right now combining ferro cement. Of course, ferro cement means there is cement, there is steel meshes. We are combining ferro cement with grass so that, like the problems of grass. We don't mean to say that there are no problems with older materials or natural materials. It obviously attracts a lot of pests and sometimes maintenance. So let's combine things. Let's think in a rational way. Let's not discard anything. That is what I would say. Your skyscrapers are possible to be built, and mind you, the best way to build them is to combine all these elements. You cannot follow the Western way in this tropical climate. That is leading to our destruction firsthand.
Got it. And just before we move to sort of the debris wall and the shuttered debris wall, in the part where I work on the web and on the internet, we in the UI kind of user interface kind of design world, we have something called as atomic theory, which is foundation is something that you build on top of it. Like there are certain, say, typography and certain colors and whatever. In your practice or in general architecture, I believe brick is sort of the foundation block. Or is there anything else when dealing with mud, or like how do you build then foundations? Because as you said, yes, you can have a mud over RCC columns, but how does it, like, if you can help us envision?
Yeah, so mud, I also started to learn about mud brick at first. I didn't learn about, like shutter debris wall. Those are actually different techniques that we kind of created in our journey. But originally, we also learned about mud brick only. First, we learned about something called compressed stabilized earth brick. That means you just compress dry mud into a particular shape and make it like a brick without adding, without burning it. So that was the primal form. You add a bit of 5% of cement, and voila, you get a very good, brick. So that I learned from Auroville Earth Institute. So we also started learning about mud from mud brick only. It was not like immediately we started creating combinations or any of those kind of composite creations. So yes, we also started from mud brick only.
Yeah.
And brick as a module, we can see these. Sometimes you see these olden places where in villages and in many places you see that people make these small molds and like they put this raw mud and like get it sun baked. This technique has been prevalent in most of our older India, and the constructions are still surviving. See, the material which I would really love to point out, the material cement or concrete, it's just around 120 years old. That material coming into construction has been only 100 to 150 years old. The other material, the previous materials have survived 600 or 1000. So the mud has shown its strength and durability. Did cement show or concrete show its strength and durability? It hasn't. It hasn't actually shown that how long it is durable. Most of us, are you in Mumbai?
Yes.
Okay, so my half family is coming from a place called Mulund. Many Kerala Christians settled in this place called Mulund, Thane, and all. Like most of our families are there.
I'm in Thane, yeah.
So you can literally hit a mallu in the street all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So my youngest childhood memories is about playing in these. Only I mean, like for me, like coming to India means olden days you had to come via Mumbai. So my first 5 days of vacation would be in Mumbai, and my father's elder brother Apacha had an apartment in Mulund. So my earliest memories were about like these concrete pillars. So we will never have any ground floor houses. It will all be for parking. And wherever the cars do not park, we would take that space, encroach that space, and play for cricket. You know how it is. No, we would always play cricket in our apartment.
Yes.
Now today, so we had at least 7 or 8 families in these different apartments, very near to each other. Today, I can see that most of these buildings are undergoing transformations. They are demolishing these buildings and again making new constructions because these older buildings, old RCC buildings, are completely fragile. They are failing in there. You can see all the columns getting like exposed, buckling, cracks, all sorts of things. So our assumption that concrete is a much more stable material has gone for a toss, in fact. So all the buildings which were built, let's say in 60s or 70s, by 2010, you can see that almost all those places have gone for a transformation. We can put a part of the blame for the fact that, okay, the higher vertical apartments can actually house more people and means more money in the suburb in Mumbai. But still, the reason why most of the families have opted for this change is because these buildings are failing. So most of my relatives are now moving into more new vertical apartments. You can see that in Mulund and Thane and all. I know about these places. You can see in all those places, all those constructions which happened in early 60s have all gone for. So that is 50 years. We are talking about only a span of 50 years. All these apartment buildings are crumbling. Their maintenance is absolutely horrible. And you can see that they have gone for a toss. Whereas, take the other example. Most of the mud buildings, which you see, even the village bad mud buildings, have at least survived for 150 years. What does it tell you? What is the story that tells you?
But isn't it sort of what, from my experience, people generally keep refurbishing it, especially with cow dung and stuff. It's almost like every week they have like one small quick layer of it just to keep it sort of free.
You go to Taj today, you will find a marble polishing guy polishing at around 12:30 to 1:30, isn't it? If you just book a room right now, go to booking.com, book your room, and don't get in there now. You go at around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, post midnight. You will find a guy who is with a marble polisher. You'll find them slowly polishing the marble of the lobby.
Beautiful.
Haven't you seen this? All of us have seen this, isn't it? Yeah. Haven't you seen one guy constantly cleaning the glass of Starbucks? Haven't you seen one poor chap having to clean those large 12 feet glasses almost daily because of the dust? My grandma can refurbish it, but can she maintain this marble flooring? Can you clean 12 feet glass?
That seems to be a very strong, strong argument. No, I don't have any comeback.
your room, I can see it. It is without much marks. That means your room, which you are sitting in right now, has been recently painted.
Yeah, it is
because the second, I will tell you one thing. Because the second I get into your room, I am a fellow who works with mud and everything. There will be always sweat and dirt with me. If I touch one of your walls by mistake, there is a mark there, isn't it? And how do you remove those marks? A child, if it touches, that mark will be there. Will it go? It will never go. You will have to again repaint it. So the kind of maintenance and refurbishment you are talking about villages, we do more. Trust me, we do much, much more to keep up these appearances. It's just that it's shiny and glossy. That is the difference here. It's just that we are used to seeing shiny and glossy from the Western world, and we love our shiny and glossy. That's it.
Wow, you're going to changed my perspective. Thanks for sharing this. Cool. So at just if you can talk a little bit about Wallmakers, like how do you ensure what's the practice, like how do you ensure it's sturdy, because now it's obviously it's evident from your conversation that it's sturdy, but what's the general practice with Wallmakers, and how do you sort of ensure the longevity of stuff, because actually you covered most of the stuff. No, but if you pick up stuff from nearby, I'm sure there must be some sort of fungal infections and whatever, like there could be termites and stuff happening. So just can you talk about a little bit about the practice, and how do you ensure that things which are made are long lasting, and apart from the material itself?
Yeah, there are these modern updated materials, chemicals and stuff like that, which we check whether it is too harmful for the nature, because we generally allow our outer skin for the nature to take over, like the crevices or the cracks and all those things in mud is good for these bugs and other things. So let them leave. Inside, we generally apply a tiny layer of water-based polyurethane, so that like it is you can literally sponge it up. You can even wash the walls. So it's a modern material. We have made sure that it is less maintenance and everything. So it's a modern material. Modern concept is being applied because it is not possible for us to again go in search for covering and stuff like that, as you very well mentioned. So there are chemicals which are applied to make sure, especially polyurethanes, many different type of polyurethanes, natural polyurethanes are there, which can make the surface more waterproof and everything. And the outer layer, which we talk about a concept where we allow those creatures also to survive. Our Anthropocene is going to survive only if we allow other creatures also to survive. We need the nature more. So we even ask for a lot of, like we ask 5% of your land to be untouched, not put into landscape. Not don't put green lawns there. Let the nature take over, and you don't encroach into it. Boundary of, so that some creatures will keep on surviving in these parts. So that is how we make it a point that there is symbiosis happening. Your maintenance-free houses is also there. Also, it takes care of bit of gives a bit back to the nature.
Hmm. Very beautiful. And just before the recording started, you mentioned that you do some prototype, you design, and then you build and create also. Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about your process, and maybe any example if you want to?
Right now, we are working on few projects on PET bottles and tires. Tires have become our main concern at this point of time, because we saw that a lot of tires are being wasted, and per day India has an excessive amount of 500,000. This is official record. 500,000 of tires is wasted a day, and they are dumped back into our system, where they skillfully, illegally, uh, they pulverize tire back into small granules, so that it can be reused in tarring, which is an exceedingly exothermic and dangerous process, where it will give out all the pollutants. It's as good as putting cancer out there. So tires has to be salvaged from this particular process, from burning, because you cannot burn tire. It is an illegal process. It gives out all the harmful ingredients. But the mafia has managed to do this particular thing in a very skillful way, by cutting tires into smaller pieces and burning it in part of the road construction. So we are very much focused on trying to get tire back into construction, to make it inert outside and inside, so that it becomes a very nice construction material. And mud with tire, this particular composite is very effective. It's very useful. It is something which I think is the material of the future. So that is one prototype we are working on. We are also working on PET bottle construction. PET bottle is our
bottle. Okay,
plastic bottles.
yeah, plastic bottles, and that's how
we are working.
Got it. Yeah. So like the debris wall is made out of that, or?
No. Debris wall is made out of construction waste. Like most of the time, when you, at least in rural India, you go and you will find there was already an existing construction there. They would say, okay, grandpa made this house very small. We want bigger rooms, bigger toilets. We are just going to demolish it. So what happens to the demolished remains? Our inclination is to throw it to the neighbor's plot. So we, so I unfortunately had to undertake a construction in such a poor neighbor's plot. My client was somebody who finished last in construction, and he obviously the rest of his friends built faster than him, and they put all their waste into his compound, and that is how shutter debris wall took into being created. We had to take in that waste material and think about how to utilize this waste material as a part of construction, because our corporations will not take any non-biodegradable waste. They would only take food waste and stuff like that. They will not take any non-biodegradable waste. They would ask you to get rid of it. That is your responsibility. So we can find that there are a lot of existing construction which are demolished to make way for new construction. So that means a lot of construction material debris is created. We can literally build our entire towns with the kind of money or material that is wasted with bridges and all those new things collapsing and stuff like that. So that was the necessity for creating shutter debris wall. It's slightly different from the PET bottle or tire construction I was talking before.
Got it. And yeah, I mean, it seems like you have been sort of truly living to the word sustainable. I know it's a abused term these days, it's overused, but you have sort of strived to judiciously use the word, or like put it in your practice. If I have to zoom out a bit and again go a little philosophical, what does sustainable mean to you? Like what's your reading and definition and observations? And I'm sure you have been reflecting about it a lot. So
recently somebody asked me like how does your office work with no table? Because we don't have table. We generally, as very well you can see what is happening right now, we generally encroach some cafe or some restaurant and and then work there. So this particular office asked me how do you manage without a table? So I said, you have a table from 9 to 5. My people do not have a table, but our people's productivity when they get a table is 700% of you. What you do in 7 days, we do it in 1 day because we never get a table. We understand the value of that resource. Wallmakers is homeless for a reason, actually, so that we understand how valuable homes are. Materials are kind of valuable, but it doesn't mean that there is a particular criteria for you to be sustainable. What it means is if you can use lesser than what you did today, you are becoming sustainable. There is no definition for it. You can't, once you start putting this embodied energy, all those things, it is good to put them slowly and steadily. It is very wise to put these kind of norms. But to start, if you can use 1 bag of cement lesser than what you did yesterday, you are on your path to sustainability.
Beautiful.
If you can avoid cutting 1 branch, if you can avoid cutting 1 tree, then what you did yesterday, you are on a path to sustainability. It's a very wrong way to define it in terms of all those other criteria or variables.
I'm in awe. Beautiful. But when you focus on this agenda or this approach or this way of thinking itself, it happens that you tend to lose focus on certain other things, right? It's always a trade-off. I mean, if everything is about sustainability, then what about creating spaces which are quite, I don't know, for a lack of a better word, cutting edge, innovation? Yeah, how do you balance those? Because your work looks spectacularly beautiful as well. It's not just playing with mud, and like, if people haven't seen it, it creates a perception of being rustic and little bit this, but your work is done very sort of, it is beautiful, elegant as well. So how do you balance that out?
as I told you earlier, my background is something from a city boy. I'm basically brought up in an urban area. So I never thought of mud as a material that we had to go back to some old caveman ideology or anything, nothing like that. Mud has the capability, or these waste materials have the capability to be a part of our innovation and lifestyle, and they um, aid your innovation. Actually, they can aid you in your innovation. Many people actually ask me, how do you come up with so many different things? I say, because that particular area had a certain material and we had to come up with a wise way of utilizing that material. That material aids you to bring out innovation in some sense. I don't know how clear I am about this. Innovation always comes when you are working with these kind of materials, because you have to think new ways. You have to think that, okay, it is not going to, you cannot have it completely a dark corner, or you have to think about certain maintenance issues that will come with it. So you work with it and you understand, okay, here is a new way to do this. This helps us in making sure that we are making like cutting edge technology, and all those things are being incorporated. That is the way to go forward. Again, we have a wrong way of thinking that cutting edge technology is all glossy and shiny. Again, the mind goes there. That is the problem here. Most of us think that a sleek looking or a like more shinier material is more cutting edge technology. In fact, it is old. It is as old as the Egyptian gold. So we have this wrong perception.
Correct. Yeah.
Today, if you have to make a modern habitat with mud, you are doing cutting edge technology.
Yeah. I think this is one of the most fascinating conversations I've had in a while, because it just resonates with me on multiple levels because of my exposure to certain other things in life. Truly appreciate. So, Vinu, I'll conclude with one last question. Is that, again, going a bit philosophical, what's the long-term future of housing, shelter, security, according to you?
Many things we had to look at all these things in a very positive manner. I am very much in love with the new generation, because while we older generation always say that they are not, they're distracted, they're disoriented, they do not have a goal in life. In some ways, they are much better than the older generation. They have a care for the world that they live in. They pollute less, and that is one advantage that I am seeing of the younger generation. But unfortunately, we have taught them the traditional ways of still exploiting nature. So this will go for a very bad toss until we will never recover until we reach the precipice. If you know what I mean, we'll only recover once we go. This is we have to brace for that. We will go for the really bad thing, and then we will come back. Then we will get better. Is what I believe. It will go into a very negative area at first, but then it will come back. Don't worry about it. It will come back. That's how it is going to be.
Yeah, I want to add to that one of my favorite lines, which I have like repeated it in multiple episodes over time, and it just doesn't end to sort of make me wonder, because it fits nicely with what you said just now. When you don't know Zen, rivers are rivers, mountains are mountains. When you're learning Zen, rivers are not rivers, mountains are not mountains. And when you have learned Zen, rivers are rivers, mountains are mountains. So
Yes,
it's
yes, yes.
yes. So this line has been with me for last I think 15-20 years now, and I reflect it on multiple levels, and that's why I said yes. The rivers are not rivers and mountains. The center phase, if we call it, is where we hit the bottom most, where we see it exploited to the maximum, with lot of burning around, and then we go
Yes,
into
yes,
the
yes.
rising cycle
Yes, yes.
again.
There has to be a very bad chaos for us to come back again, unfortunately. But
Yes.
but it is the way it is always.
Yeah. So beautifully put in. Yeah, thanks. So one last off the sort of script question, like Wallmakers, it sounds now because of Trump and other people, the narrative has changed. Does it come across as something negative? Wallmakers? No. I mean, it's just like random question.
Wallmakers was a derogatory name that happened to us long back. Because we were making buildings with mud and everything, nobody would give us opportunity to build houses. So we had to become just boundary wall makers, compound wall and those kind of flower troughs were our work initially. We didn't get proper projects or anything. We were relegated to making small compound walls. So my younger brother also was helping me out at that particular point of time. He's BSc chemistry and with no job or anything, so he was helping me out. And one of those days, a person came and said, I have a project. It is a 2-acre land. My brother got excited and he was like, my God, okay, finally we got a good project and everything. And finally, the client blurted out saying, it's a compound wall. So my brother was quite disappointed, So seeing the disappointment, this particular guy asked, do you guys, I thought you guys only make walls. Do you guys make houses also? No. We are just wall makers is what my brother said, in a derogatory way. So that is how the name stuck, Originally, we never got to make houses initially, we were always checked out. By the time we finish walls, we are checked out of making houses, We could never complete roofs initially. It was a very tough time for us. So somewhere wall makers kind of stuck. It was a name that was used to antagonize me originally, but now it is. I never wanted my name to be on the top. So Wallmakers makes sense so that there is some continuity. And it also tells of our humble beginning, where we started. We were compound wall makers at first. So we were wall makers at first.
So beautiful. I think, I would really like to meet you in person, look at the projects physically. But this is a good note to end this. Thanks a lot, Vinu, for giving your time. It was really enriching experience for me. I hope
the recording was okay. There were a lot of vehicles passing. It's fine.
Yes.
No problem.
Perfect. It was great. Thanks a lot.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. For show notes and more Gyan, visit audiogyan.com. And if you wish to connect with me, I am at Audiogyan Moments on Instagram. Until then, take care.